Tonight, we're taking an in-depth look at your winter weather forecast. Southern New Englanders are dreading more sights like this after last year's brutal deep freeze.
But this season, there's a wild card in the mix, El Nino, seen here as a red band of warm water across the Pacific Ocean. And it will have a major impact on what's in store for this winter.
Chief Meteorologist Tony Petrarca is with us now. Tony, I know you've been crunching the data. Yes. Please tell us we're going to have less snow than we did last year.
Well, I mean, it's tough to go have a back-to-back winter like last winter. It was so extreme and record-breaking. So the good news, no, it's not a repeat performance. But El Nino tends to be a very stormy weather pattern. So the million-dollar question here is it more or less snow?
Winter in southern New England. It can bring a wide variety of extremes. Some years are bitter cold with excessive snow. Others mild and wet with bare ground. And everything else in between, including ice and sleet. Seasonal weather predictions 2 to 3 months into the future is not easy and certainly not an exact science. But today's technology can give us a broad generalization of what the winter may look like on average in terms of precipitation and temperature. So to figure out the upcoming winter, we have to think globally, analyzing current and predicted ocean and weather patterns across the entire northern hemisphere.
Now, when predicting the upcoming winter season, we look at a number of global weather patterns of factors, but by far the biggest weather player, sea surface temperatures, specifically what we call sea surface temperature anomalies. Where's the water running warmer or colder than average? We head out into the Pacific and we look at certain areas, especially off the coast of South America and near the equator in the Pacific. And this red zone that we've been monitoring now for the last several months is a ribbon of warm water. And that quite simply is El Nino. And it does play a big factor. This sea surface temperature anomaly, the water is very warm. Here's the real deal on the satellite photo, infrared picture, and you can see that red stripe across the equatorial Pacific. It is very significant, and this plays a big factor in how the weather behaves across the northern hemisphere.
I went to the National Weather Service in Taunton, Mass. to talk with meteorologist Dave Valley. We were classmates studying weather back in the 1980s, and both of us are very impressed with the magnitude of this year's El Nino.
When you have an El Nino, you're warming 2/3 of the tropical Pacific. And you're not only warming the surface, but you're warming it hundreds and hundreds of feet down through the ocean surface. That change, Tony, is heat. It's energy to the atmosphere. So that's why the ripple effect occurs. You have to have the atmosphere adjust to that change.
Action reaction.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest atmospheric reactions is a significant subtropical jet stream, a very active storm track which carries storms off the Pacific Ocean and into the continental U.S. So here's the breakdown as where we think the storm track will be this winter, essentially from Southern California through the southern plains and up the East Coast. Now, some storm systems will come across the southeast and head out to sea, but more frequently storms coming up the coastline giving us above average precipitation. But the real wild card here, do we have enough cold air so that these storms fall in the form of snow rather than rain?
Where we are in coastal southeast New England, the chances are we'll probably see 1 or 2 big blockbuster East Coast snowstorms, but I doubt we'll be in the corridor where the heaviest snow occurs.
But we'll have episodes where the cold air retreats to the north and it's mostly a rain or mixed precipitation kind of a situation. So not all storms like last February will be all snow. So here's how it breaks down. A milder start to the winter through December, turning colder the second half, but again, not as frigid or as extreme as last winter in terms of temperature and snowfall. As far as snowfall here in southern New England, we're going to forecast it to be near average to above average with more frequent coastal storms, but at times of mild air, we'll certainly have mixed precipitation and rainstorms as well. So a stormy active pattern across the East Coast, not always snow, but some rain and ice as well. But El Nino will play a big factor in our weather this winter, and only time will tell. So it's not as extreme as last year, but it's no cakewalk either. I think it's a stormy weather pattern along the East Coast. I see a couple of potential nor'easters this winter. Whether or not the air is just cold enough to tip the scale between rain and snow remains to be seen. But I think the net result will be average to slightly above average snowfall when all is said and done by the end of March.
Well, I learned my lesson and got a serious pair of waterproof snow boots to make it through. And I'm going to wear them whether it snows or not because now I have them.
That's the weather word for this winter, slush.